Thanks. I'm Savannah Wilson. I'm student body vice president. I'm here filling in for Colin because he's busy with play practice. Haven't been super busy at the high school lately. Our next big event will probably be elections, student government elections at the end of March. We had a couple assemblies this week. Yesterday, the juniors filled out preparation for the ACT, and today we recognized winter sports and clubs, so that was exciting. And then our next dance is Preference, which is drill team is in charge of. That's on March 28th. So that's pretty much it for the next month.
Sounds like you're busy.
Yeah.
Okay. So got any questions? No?
Okay, thank you.
I failed to excuse Vice President Gilroy. He's out of town, so he won't be here for this tonight. I'm going to turn the time over now to Risha Barba. She'll introduce the next item on our.
Okay, I'd like to welcome our FFA, or some of our FFA members here tonight. I invited them to come and show off some of their skills of parliamentary procedure. They actually just participated in an area contest and won the area contest, and they will be going on to compete at the state level. Now, when is that?
March 12th through the 14th.
12th through the 14th. So we wish them luck in that. And I just wanted to take this chance to celebrate many good things that are happening in our district. I think that it's important that we focus on the good things that are happening. And I feel like the clubs and the many extracurricular activities that we have, I think they really add to our student learning. And I just like to turn the time over to them to just kind of give us a little demo on what they do.
Well, we're the Uintah FFA chapter. We're going to teach you just a little bit about parliamentary procedure and what it is. I'm Jacob Spencer. I'm the chair of the parliamentary procedure team. Savannah Arias is our secretary. Jessica Jakes is a 4-member, as well as Jared Spencer, Ethan Schoenfeld, and Tara Watkins. I'll let Jessica teach you a little bit.
Okay, to get it down, parliamentary procedure is an efficient way to run meetings. This is often used in a lot of organizations, clubs, and a whole bunch of different things. But with use of parliamentary procedure is a way that you can improve your debates and get subjects, letting everyone be heard, and improving your confidence when speaking in public speaking. As the FFA, we follow the Robert's Rules of Order for our parliamentary law, and as you can see, it's quite a thick book, but tonight we'll be summarizing up what we do in our FFAs.
The main goal of parliamentary procedure is to be able to effectively make and handle motions. A motion is a formal proposal put to legislature or a committee. According to Robert's Rules of Order, there are 5 classes of motions: privileged, subsidiary, incidental, motions which bring back business, and main motions. Privileged motions are motions which pertain to the rights of the individual or the assembly. These could be things like asking for a recess, adjournment, or other personal privileges. Subsidiary motions are motions which help handle the main motion. Amendments, postponements, and motions pertaining to debate all fall under subsidiary motions. Incidental motions are motions which arise throughout the meeting. While they don't necessarily pertain to the business at hand, they do require immediate attention. Some examples of incidental motions include withdrawing a motion or calling a point of order. Motions which bring back business are just that. They bring previous business back to attention. These could be motions that were previously set aside or ones that need to be reconsidered. And last but not least in the classes of motions is the main motion. Main motions are really unique to all the other motions because they're the only ones that can introduce a new topic to the assembly.
So my fellow's right hand with Savannah's is the presence of the motions. And just a little bit about that. The first has the highest precedence is the privileged motions. And those are fixed time to which to adjourn, recess, question of privilege, and orders of the day. And those are the privileged motions. And those ones and they go in that order as well, from the first to the last. And subsidiary motions are motions, like Savannah said, that pertain to the main motion. And, the subsidiary motions also have a hierarchy, and the first one would be lay on the table, and then there's previous question, and then limit or extend limits on debate, and then postpone definitely, and then refer to committee, amend, and postpone indefinitely. And then the incident motion, then there's the main on the bottom, and that has the lowest hierarchy. And then the incidental motions are ones that are just handled as they come up. And then motions that bring business back before the assembly, they need to be handled before when there's no other business on the table. So there's no other business pending, and that's the ranking of motions.
So there are 8 main steps to making a main motion, and the first step would be to rise and address the chair, and then the second step would for the chair to recognize you, and then you would make the motion, and the proper wording to make a motion is "I move that," and then you would state the motion that you would like to come before the assembly. The fourth step would be to the chair would restate the motion to the assembly. Then the fifth would be to get a second for the motion. The sixth would be for people to debate the motion. The seventh would be to vote on the motion, and the eighth would be for the chair to restate the vote that how the vote turned out. And that's what I was asked to talk on.
We'll do just a real quick demonstration, just kind of show you guys what it looks like. This meeting is now open for new business.
Mr. President,
Savannah.
I move that Uintah FFA chapter plants flower beds at the Uintah School District office.
Second.
There's been properly moved and seconded that our chapter plant flower beds at Uintah School District office. Is there any debate?
Mr. President.
Jared.
I move that when this meeting adjourns, stay adjourned to next Friday at 3 p.m.
Second.
It's been probably moved and seconded that when this meeting be adjourned, it will remain adjourned until next Friday at 3 p.m. Are there any amendments? Seeing none, proceed to vote. All in favor that when this meeting be adjourned, it remain adjourned until next Friday at 3 p.m., please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no.
No.
The ayes have it, motion passes. When this meeting be adjourned, it will remain adjourned until next Friday at 3 p.m.
Mr. President,
Savannah.
I wish to speak in favor of the main motion. I believe that if we were to plant flower beds at the Uintah School District office, this would be a great way for us to give back to our community. We could also get some community service hours in, which we all know that our students need when they're applying for some of their applications, such as chapter degree and state degrees that are coming up. This would also be a great way to take the load off some of our district employees, because they wouldn't have to worry about landscaping the outside of their buildings, because we would be more than glad to handle that for them. I am strongly for this motion, and I urge everyone to be so also.
Question of privilege.
Jessica, state your privilege.
May I remove my jacket? It's rather warm in here.
No, you may not. We're an official meeting.
Mr. President,
Jared.
the adoption of this motion will greatly benefit our FFA chapter. Because if we adopt this motion, it'll allow us for the people in charge of this motion, who are like organizing the planet, to gain new leadership skills and important life skills that will help them throughout their entire lives, and also allow us to solve one of our chapter's greatest problems, which is chapter participation. And this will allow for us to get our members involved in a good cause, and also getting service hours for the SAE projects and other things.
Mr. President,
Ethan.
I'm opposed to the motion at hand. Our plants that we are selling for our greenhouse sales we sell most of them throughout the spring time that we sell them. We also need to focus our time and effort into helping the students and helping them learn things for their SAEs and future projects. So please help me in failing the main motion.
Mr. President,
Tara.
I move that we amend the main motion by striking out flower beds and inserting Potter inserts.
Second.
It's been probably moved to second that we amend the main motion by striking out flower beds and insert flower pots. Is there any debate?
Mr. President,
Tara.
I'm strongly in favor of this amendment because if we do this, we already have the experience of doing this because I've done it before. We also will have the supplies and know how to transport them to be able to transport them safely. We also have a good repertoire with the previous benefactors of this, and so we'll be able to keep up the good reputation that we have. So please help me in passing this amendment.
Parliamentary inquiry.
Ethan, state your inquiry.
What vote is required to pass this motion?
This is an amendment and requires a majority vote to rule.
Mr. President,
Tara or Jessica.
I agree with our previous speaker. I believe this would be a great amendment. Seeing that our greenhouse, our plant cells are coming to an end, we have still quite a few plants that we need to get rid of. And this would be a great opportunity to use these plants, which others can go to waste, which will also be, this would be a great opportunity to use these plants in our community. And not only that, our members can learn from this when learning and how to plant these certain plants for the school district. So this would be a great opportunity for our members and a great opportunity. So I hope we pass this amendment.
Mr. President.
Savannah.
I move the previous question on all pending motions.
Second.
It's been probably moved and seconded that we move the previous question on all pending motions. All in favor of ordering the previous question, please rise. Thank you, be seated. All opposed, please rise. Thank you, be seated. There is 5 for, and 0 against. Motion passes. We'll proceed to vote on all pending motions. All in favor that we amend the main motion that by striking out flower beds and inserting flower pots, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no.
No.
The ayes have it. Motion passes. The motion now stands that our chapter plants flower bed or pots at the Uintah School District office. All in favor that we have our chapter, FFA chapter, plant flower pots at the Uintah School District office, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no.
No.
The ayes have it. Motion passes. We will have our June FFA chapter plant flower pots at the Uintah School District office. Is there any other business? Tara.
I move that we adjourn. Second.
It's been probably moved to second that we adjourn this meeting. All in favor that we adjourn this meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say no.
No.
The ayes have it. Motion passes. We will adjourn this meeting.
So, that was a brief representation of part of our parliamentary procedure contest. Our contest, we have one team that consists of 6 members, the chair, the secretary, and the 4 floor members. We start out by taking a written test that is about 45 questions long, and then we go on to a parliamentary procedure demo like we just did. We have 10 minutes to complete this demo, and we have a card that has the motions that we must accomplish or present and handle during that demo. And then after we do our demo, we have oral questions that the judges will ask us about to judge our info that we know about parliamentary procedure. That's what our contest is. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was impressive. Thank you very much. The only question I have is, when can we expect those flowers to be like? District office. Make a nice addition. Thank you. We'll move on to the next item on our agenda, which is patron input. If any of our patrons have input they'd like to give the board for an item that's not on the agenda, come forward and state your name and we'll give you a couple minutes. Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item. The next item is our superintendent's report. I will turn the time over to the superintendent's office.
Okay, the first thing on the item was last month we had a number of folks out discussing the TRIO program and the issue that we had at the high school. We met with the TRIO leadership and school leadership, and we've ensured that there has not been any break of any student services, and they worked out the issues that they were having at high school, and so the TRIO program is moving forward. The TRIO number there's been no break in any services for the kids, so everything seems to be working out well with that one. The second item is a request that the board has made to discuss the assessments of our students. And in the past, we've had YPP and NWA and CRTs all going on at the same time, and the issues were always that there is a over assessment of kids, and so we've reduced that. We've taken out the YPP, which was the weekly progress reports, assessments that all the teachers were doing. We're no longer having the CRTs and the NWA. We have the one SAGE assessment for the kids. And so I asked Jaime to pull together a presentation that would address what it is that we are assessing and how often we're assessing and how much time spent in assessment.
Okay, thank you. I pulled a report together looking at the state mandated, there's some assessments that we have to give the SAGE. And there's also some district assessments that we've collectively agreed to give to our students. I tried to get some averages. They're not exact, but this gives you an idea on the amount of testing that actually goes on in the district. So just to show the state mandated assessments, there might be a few more at UALPA, some other tests that involve small percentages of students. We're talking in general a number of our students. The SAGE Math, grades 3 through 11, once a year. SAGE Science, 4 through 11, once per year. SAGE Language Arts, grades 3 through 11, once per year. We have our Easy CBN, which is our reading assessment for grades 1, 2, and 3, 3 times per year. And our ACT involving 11th graders once per year. Now, we also have a SAGE interim. We gave that sporadically. This year it wasn't a mandate from the district or the state. It won't be a mandate from the state. So those are our assessments we have from the state level. Okay.
How long does it take to take the SAGE test?
I'll get to that. Well, it really depends. There's a writing component of the language arts that takes some time. And I'll talk about the actual minutes that we're assessing, okay? Now, our district assessments, we don't have anything for our K2 in terms of math, science, language arts, so we needed to have something in place. As you can see, our math, our science, and our language arts benchmarks K5, 3 times a year for grades K2, twice a year for grades 3-5. Only twice a year for grades 3-5, because the third assessment is their SAGE assessment. No sense in double testing. Science the same way, it involves 4th grade and up, language arts. Now our Fountas and Pinnell is just our reading assessment. This is really valuable for us. What we found in the district is when we say, hey, is a student low or high in reading, we wanted to be able to say they're a level A or level B or level C, and it doesn't matter where they are, which school, which grade, they understand the level that we're discussing. We have an exact number. This was something that we wanted for our district. It does take some time. So just to know, so here's what I did. I said, okay, based on 180 days, based on the number of hours in a day, based on calculations, and I could be off a little bit, but I don't think I am. And I had to do some averages. I took some averages talking to some principals. What's your average time? We know there are some outliers. We know with some of the writing components, because it's not timed. Sometimes the writing takes 2 to 3 hours for students. Some assessments are whole group. Some assessments are one at a time, like the Fountas. Okay, so there's a little difference there. As you see, K11 did the best I could to the actual minutes of assessing per year. You can see 300. 8:30, you can actually look at the minutes. The minutes assessing per week, just doing a calculation on the percentage of actual testing that we do is less than 1% of their time. Now that doesn't include school assessments, that doesn't include their own assessments. We're just talking the mandated assessments that we have. It doesn't actually take a lot of time. There is a problem, though, with it. One is, it's a major disruption to the schedule. I agree, it is, because they all occur during the same windows. Fall, winter, spring. And, you have teachers in here who can say it's happening all at once. Lack of computer labs. It's mainly a disruption, and it happens all at one time. So in one time, yeah, it takes up a lot of schedule. I've been privy to some information as I've been helping at Mazer for the last little while, and to see some of the frustrations that the teachers are experiencing just with not having access to computers, and to know we just finished the writing assessment and now we're going into another assessment. It's unfortunate that's just the way sometimes it works. So we try to work with our teachers. The key is we don't want to just assess to assess. If we're just assessing for the sake of assessing students, we're wasting our time. We want to be able to take that information, drive instruction, and really feed down to the student level, because that's what we're about as the students. Questions?
Doesn't seem like a lot of time in what you're showing. 10 minutes for 10 minutes a week for most of them.
When you look at it over the course of the year, it isn't a lot of time. But when you're in the classroom, all at once, you know, that frustration builds.
As a teacher, can I just say something? I give the SAGE in my biology courses, my ag biology, and one thing that gets me with the testing is we have to do it so early in the try. I have never once in 16 years been able to get through the curriculum in biology. It just happened. And so my kids will test next week. I got to push back to the end of next week, Thursday, Friday. So, okay, there's their final Friday. Well, then in the mindset the following week, kids think we're done. So I have a week, and I still have a couple units to do. But yet we have to have a week for administrators to be able to grab those that didn't show up so they can take the test. And I'm not the only one. I'm at the science department yesterday morning, and they're frustrated too about that. And I know language arts in the high school, they were testing last week. And that's 3 weeks before the end of the trimester. So I think, if we add, and I know part of it's computer labs, we don't have enough labs, but I think if we can push that back.
We're not in control of the windows. We are not in control of those windows.
Right.
The writing assessment that language arts had to give, the reason is so early this year, for the last 2 years, they had to take a writing component. And as soon as the students finished the writing component, they would have one teacher or somebody behind the scenes would do a grading on it. It will take some time. This year is the same way. They need a time to be able to grade the assessments, the writing assessment, to give feedback. The hope is, in the future, that once that writing assessment is given, the computer grades it. We'll see how that works out, but it won't be this early. And part of it's because our trimesters. The problem with the state is they don't know whether high schools are on trimesters or semesters, and so we've been actually working with the principal, with the assistant principal at the high school, of moving back our writing language arts, our writing benchmark, SAGE benchmark, just because they hadn't even been in class yet, and it's starting right now. So there are some frustrations with, but Dave, I think the problem is it's statewide. I think you can talk to any teacher in the state and say, we don't have enough time. You can talk to your elementary teachers and say, well, it's 180 days, but actually it's not. You're starting at 150 days because we're supposed to be through the testing. We finish the testing sometimes 2-3 weeks before the end of the year. So there's some windows that are just out of our control.
Those
good point.
Mandated by the state then?
They typically set their windows and say, here you have like a month to finish your assessments.
Questions?
Well, how do we push back at the state and say, I don't know. I have a hard time with the tests because I feel like it takes away from our true learning. I know we have to have some tests. That's a given, but I don't know. I see kids stressing out and teachers stressing out, and I don't think it really helps. But I know it's not up to us. On some of them, we have to do them. So.
And I think, yeah, great point. This part here that I should have added, high stakes. There's a lot of stress involved, and luckily we're not there at this district where you have things like in LA where they posted. LA Times, they posted teacher effectiveness scales by one assessment. And they didn't take into account all the variables that go into teaching. It's a tough profession. You don't know whether that kid had breakfast in the morning or if they had to fight with their friend before school. We can't control that. And we're not there. We're not trying to use the assessments to slap anybody. We're trying to use the assessments to hopefully really improve student learning.
Mm-hmm. And that's
it's just good leadership.
That's what they should do.
Okay.
I appreciate that information because I hear quite often I hear from teachers that we're testing so much that I don't have time to be a good teacher anymore. And so when I hear that, I don't have a reference to know what does that mean? I don't know how to test it, so I really appreciate it, that information.
Thank you. Yeah, I can share with you the actual average time per assessment. I just don't have it for this PowerPoint if you want to be able to see.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, man. That was all I had.
Okay. We'll turn some time over to Randy for business administrative report.
Yeah, I'll just share with you two things. One is we just received notice that in our district that the Wellness Council of Utah is going to recommend our district with the Platinum Award, which is the highest award we get for our wellness program and how aggressive we are with most communities. So it's a good thing. That award we received March 5th at a conference/banquet for Wellness Council. Update on the high school, there's a lot of painting going on the second floor. There's been not much else going on besides the second floor, so everything else is done. We're barring a few repairs on the roof from an airplane, and the athletic center, and a kid climbing on top of one of the classrooms, which is a design to hold kids on top of those classrooms inside the athletic center. So barring that, right now it looks like we're on schedule to be done by the end of March, which is kind of our plan. We do the parking lot in the summer. Try to save some money there and get contractors out sooner, which saves them money, and then they're passing that money out.
So the anticipated date is when to be finished?
We're hoping by the end of March. Yeah. And Weston's pushing to even be out sooner than that, but
Thank you, Larry.
they have to as well. That's all I have.
Can you tell us anything about where we're at with the legislature?
I can tell you they cut $60 million out of the base budget. I'll tell you that. Probably the biggest hit for us, two biggest hits for us, would be transportation, which is a program that the legislature by law is supposed to fund at 85%. We currently fund at 65%. And now they proposed about an 8.5% cut. So the other big area for us is just the flexible allocation, which is unrestricted money. Senator Stevenson swears that we're going to get all that money back plus some, and I wouldn't doubt that we're going to get that money back if we go. I think we're going to get the strings attached, and so it won't be restricted like this. They'll not be able to use it for specific areas. So listen to Public Edit Pro today. Senator Osmond's pushing his property tax equalization bill, trying to alleviate that for the basic levy, which it's hard to tell over the internet how it's received from the committee.
Is he trying to put that to the basic levy or to the capital foundation?
He's trying to increase the basic levy
and put the money in the capital.
And put the money in three areas. One's capital growth, capital foundation, and the other would be capital foundation, capital growth, and foundation enrollment. There's three different programs, right? To deal with capital outlay. 75% of that would go to the foundation, which in the past has kind of been underfunded. Oh, the first one was the state board of the voted UA guarantee. That's been underfunded for several years. So 75% would go to that, and 25% would be broken out between the capital foundation and the capital enrollment programs. And so you look at where we are. There's probably the graph I saw today, 8 or 10 districts that have a higher per pupil property tax generation than we do, which means there's a 30 to go. The lower South Santa Fe is the absolute lowest, and so they have some of the highest tax rates. So they really have nowhere to go where the tax rates are maxed out. They have no assessed valuation. Be able to generate the revenues there. So it's definitely an issue. It's an issue that's going on in other states and being litigated. Arizona just had a settlement. I want to say it was a $1.6 billion settlement between the school districts and the state legislature. The judge enacted and said we're going to have to equalize this, help us in the school districts. So Senator Osmond, you have to give him credit. He's not trying to go to winners losers, which has been proposed in the past, where some districts would lose money, some districts would gain on the backs of the others. He is trying to find another solution, but it is a tax increase. And so we'll have to see how the legislature does the best of it. So, other than that, there's not, it's the same old up with the hill.
Now, isn't the local replacement, charter school local replacement going to hit that district?
That was one of the issues, was they cut that local replacement from the state budget to put that on the the backs of school districts. And so I think you're going to see a number of school districts honestly go through and raise their taxes to cover that cost. I mean, for us right now, it's anticipated to be well over $200,000 out of our budget to go to the charter schools. Where the argument for the school districts really is, you know, I mean, first of all, the argument is you're not even funding us on transportation, you're taking that money, and now you're making us pay for the charter schools that you enacted, right? But we're not opposed to charter schools, obviously. But we can legislate, try to be able to fund those in an equitable manner. So there's just a lot of inconsistencies. So, but again, to the last 48 hours of legislature, you really don't know what it's going to fall out. So that's the reality.
I think I looked at in transportation, it's going to get us about 150,000, 200,000 on the local replacement and flexible allocation. We were looking at $600,000-$700,000.
Yeah, the flexible allocation is about
for our district. So that's kind of what we're facing.
But we're getting that back
so
plus
far.
one.
Yeah, we're going to get that plus 6.5,
So,
right?
We'll know about that in March.
Okay.
President Caldwell.
Yeah.
Friday, March 20th is Education Day on Capitol Hill. And they have invited education-minded people to go up there and be a part of it and listen to see what's going on, just to make you aware of that.
Thank you. Is that, were they on the Hill? Yeah, so the Utah School Board Association sponsors the day. They also have a conjunction with that. And so they invite all board members to come, and they'll have a meeting where they have some of the senators' representatives come and discuss education issues, and it's a good day to go become informed and put your opinion in. It's March 20th?
February 20th. And just a little tidbit of information, they told us in our meeting Saturday that if you're not there by about 6:30 in the morning, plan on parking down below and riding public transportation up, because there's no parking.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to the next item on our agenda is an action item section. And the first item is the consent calendar. So I would open that up to the board for a motion.
I move that we approve the January 13th, 2015 minutes.
You want to approve the whole consent calendar?
Is there any way that we could have Lee call me on the personnel change?
Sure.
That had been changed without you see pattern.
You have an updated personnel packet, and you'll see that I've added the names of 3 new hire candidates since the board packet was sent out. The only other change is we've added the names of 3 employees whose employment with the district has ended. Any questions?
The consent calendar, you just approve it all at once?
Yeah.
Okay. I move that we approve the consent calendar.
I second.
We have a motion to approve the consent calendar and a second. Any further discussion?
The only thing I would mention is that to let the public know what items are within that consent calendar, which not only includes the minutes, but personnel changes, the organized state traps, and possibly just identify that and announce what those out-of-state travels are. So that would be my only.
So included in our consent calendar this evening We have the approval of the minutes from our January 13th, 2015 meeting. We have personnel changes, and we have out-of-state travel for the school board to attend the National School Board Convention in Nashville, and for Steve Scott to attend the Midwest Sports Performance Conference in Lawrence, Kansas. So, any other discussion? Okay, having a motion and a second, we'll have a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to the next item, we will have first reading of policy 4.09, mobile communication devices, and we will turn that over to Randy to introduce that.
Yes, let me just give a little bit of background. For quite a while now, I mean, clear back to the days when Strata first came to us and said, here's 12 phones, we want you to use our plan. And they weren't the brick phones, but they were pretty cheap phones, not to where technology is today. But we have this funding called E-rate funding. Whenever somebody pays their telephone bill every month, there's a line that goes to the federal government that actually comes back to school districts. And that E-rate funding, based on our free reduced percentages, which is about 68%, we get a reimbursement of certain things that we incur during the school year. Right now, one of those things has been any kind of voice or voice over IP or long distance cell phone calls, those types of things. We would get 68% reimbursement on that. So it's been financially better for the district to provide the cell phone service and have the employees have the cell phone plan, or have the district own the cell phones and the cell phone plan, all those types of things. The E-rate voice piece, they're going more to a network structure, and they're doing away with the voice piece, 20% per year. So we ran some calculations as to what we pay a year, have determined that for the remainder of this year we would receive more E-rate money. We would basically save money versus a proposal to pay employee stipends for having a cell phone. So our proposal by this policy is that beginning around July 1st, we work out the end of the contract, the end of the billing cycle. So employees are left without a cell phone. But around July 1st, we would start a reimbursement basis. And that reimbursement would be $50 a month. We would pay that on a quarterly basis. There's some rules within the policy that says we won't go back over fiscal years and those types of things that we have to file timing. And so that would be up to the administrators to determine who's in need of cell phones. We do have those individuals that respond to emergency calls, have deviable principals, emergency situations, those types of things. And so I don't see a lot of difference in the way we're doing it now. Although an employee now would own the cell phone, they would have their own plan. They'd go to Strata or AT&T or Verizon or Sprint or wherever they chose to go to. They would have their own plan, and then the district would reimburse them up to $50 a month for that plan. So that's the gist of the policy. The only piece that's on the drafts page, the only piece that we've had a question on that administration still plans to talk about is in 8.1, where it states the cell phone contract is in the name of the employee or spouse who is solely responsible for all payments to the service provider. The gist behind that is most districts, as we look at other policies and higher education entities, most of them said if it's not in the name of the employee, they wouldn't reimburse it. The employee has to incur that cost, and that's to avoid, a company owning that, or maybe their spouse owns a company, and so the company's paying the cell phone, they're still getting that reimbursement, even though the company's paying for that. That's top of the districts. That's kind of the philosophy behind that. But right now in policy, we've got it's got to be the employee's or the spouse's name. And that's something we'll look at and consider after the first reading. But other than that, a lot of it, frankly, is plagiarized from other districts where they found successes. We would have two forms where one, the employee has to sign up and say, yeah, I need a cell phone with the supervisor signing that. And then there's also a reimbursement form that would come in the form quarterly that would get out through the next pay. That's my explanation.
I believe that we approve on first reading of what it is. Policy 004.0900 mobile communication devices.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Okay. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the policy?
I have just a request for an addition on it. On 7.3, it says the superintendent has final approval authority. I would like to add that the board has final approval authority. Because I like the checks and balances between the board and the superintendent. I think that that's the purpose of a policy. It's to keep the checks and balances. That's the purpose of our entities, to be, it's like the government of our country. We have checks and balances. And I think that that would be important in this policy.
So the board wants to manage all of our cell phones in the district?
Well, I don't know how to word it exactly. I wouldn't say, I don't know. It's just thoughts I've had that I want the board in there somewhere to be able to help.
So let me help that a little bit. So the reason it's worded the way it is, let's say an administrator, employee comes and says, I think I need a cell phone committed on. That administrator says, I don't think you do. Okay? Their appeal process is first to the superintendent. He would have final approval authority saying whether an employee has that or does not have that. There has to be an appeal process beyond the superintendent. That would be the school board. If the school board becomes a final approval authority, now the appeal process has to go out to someone on the outside. So typically the way it's set up is any policy that's disputed, the appeal goes back to the board in that situation. So that's why it's set up that way. I don't know that the board wants to have the Duchesne board dealing with an appeal process that in the end you wouldn't have control over. Ultimately, you would want total control, final control on that. And that would mean, obviously if special ed comes and says, I need an extra cell phone, they're going to build that into their budget, right? And the board would approve or not approve that budget, simply. So the administrators have a choice of where that goes. But there's got to be an appeals process in place, and right now that goes to the board policies.
So that's in policy somewhere that the appeal goes to the board?
No, the board is the keeper over the policies. The board approves policies, eliminates policies, sets policies. So any policy that is disputed, the interpretation is disputed by administration, any of those appeals goes to the board. Some of the policies has that stated in them. A lot of the policies do not. That's just the procedure, how it goes. Because the board ultimately is the one that is the final authority that interprets those policies.
So are you more interested in just knowing who's been given a cell phone instead of proving it?
Maybe. That might be a better way. I don't know. I just like the board to be able to have knowledge of things like that. So that might be a better way to do it. I don't know. Are there any public comments on this matter?
And just so you know, Risha, you would see, so every month we send out to the board members all the accounts payable checks that are issued. You would see on those accounts payable checks everyone who's receiving a cell phone stipend. So you would know everyone in the district that has one. And that's public information, like we ran requested. But that's something that we send to the board every month, so you can look over the expenditures of the district. So you would have that information.
I do have a comment. Because I read this, and it's sort of a different, it was in 6.0, where it said that they needed more than a cell phone. I think I don't have it in front of me, another device, which I'm thinking like a tablet or something that's more than, that would be an extra expense. And in there it says that the superintendent has the final, he decides if they need something more than a cell phone. And so if there's something more than that, which obviously is more money, then wouldn't the board have that? I mean, of course you would decide that, that's your job, but in the policy it didn't say that. It says you're the final, but like Risha said, the board is the final. I think I agree with her that you just should say, and the superintendent has the final say under the direction of the board. Even if it just said that in there, then that would be what you're saying is like an understood, right? Because aren't you saying, Randy, that it's understood that the board is always the final?
Yeah, the board is appealed. the board is the entity that someone appeals to if the policy is being incorrectly
after they've gone through.
Yeah. So Risha's just saying I don't see the board in here, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's what.
And so I think, because I remember just reading.
I don't know all the ins and outs, and so I'm learning, and I don't mind you telling me what you think, because I'm learning. So. Because
I read that in 6.0, there's 3 things in there that just say that it's the extra, and I thought, well, if it's like the phone thing, I get, but the extra stuff, that would be under the direction. No matter where they were, would come to the superintendent. And I just think you're right. You should say under the direction of the board, or, just so, because that's what I didn't know it wasn't understood. I don't know where you find this stuff. I don't know. Risha, I don't know where you find it either.
Thank you. We got another comment. Page name.
Laura Foley. If we just put in, Randy said some policies have it in there that the appeal process goes to the board, and maybe that's the only language that needs to be in there so that employees know the appeal process goes to the board, because otherwise they would not know.
I would like that idea.
So you want to make a motion to amend?
Or would you do that under its own policy under the policies of the board? Rather than go into every single policy and say, have it written in every single policy, it'd be easier to have one policy under the board, which is 1.0, I think, 2.0, to say that it's under, whatever that language is, to say any policies that are approved by the board has a final appeal process if they're translated, or registered incorrectly. Let's simplify things.
What do you guys think?
It makes more sense to me. The one thing is that we don't want to become encumbered with the administrative process. We need to realize what our role is, and if we put in that language, and I understand where you're coming from, we should, but if we put in that language, it'd be the same as for every out-of-state travel. You would come to the board and we give that approval, and we've hired professionals with great confidence to fulfill certain obligations, and this should be one of them. However, as long as that process, kind of like what you said, if there's an overarching policy that has the language in it that applies to all the policies in which this board passes, then I think that would suffice. But put the language in there would actually be more of an encumbrance than it would be helpful.
Well, I'm not sure how wording would be best. I'm just interested in protecting individual rights so that nobody feels, so there's that safety net of the appeals process. Like it's supposed to, I feel like that's what the board is for, and so I'm not saying that there will be any problems. I just want that so that it's set up kind of like the founding fathers did it, of it's a safety net. It checks and balances each other. That's my only thought on this, and that was my purpose of even saying that. And so I think maybe having that policy like that, I think that would be that the board is the appeals process for everything, or have some kind of policy like that would satisfy me.
I believe there is currently, maybe an employee grievance policy. I mean, Sharon Bills can tell you 15 years ago, there were 25 grievances going on. We haven't had grievances for a long time. Just things have been mostly smooth. But I believe there is an employee grievance policy.
That's what I was thinking, is that in the grievance policy, but I don't have it in front of me. I'm just going from memory.
So maybe we can have somebody from the administration look into that, see if we have that in the grievance policy.
Sorry, I've got it right here. 002.045. My name is Scott Dowling. This said the review of administrative decisions refers to the grievance procedure. It's already in policy.
Which policy is that in?
It's review of administrative decisions under the board policies.
Do you have a number?
Yeah, it is 002.0452.
Okay. So it sounds like we have that in there already. Perfect. Okay.
So it's already understood. I just didn't understand it yet. So I'll go understand it. And I'll learn more today.
Any other documenting comments? Okay. I'd like to request that you get, could you let us know how many loans we're paying for now?
Yeah.
You don't need, I don't need it now, but just send it to us. And financial, fiscal note on this, it's going to cost more.
Every cost is less.
So it costs less.
Well, that's the whole point of going to the system. Without the E-rate reimbursement, now the whole cost will be ours.
Right.
Right. We're right now only 32% of the cost is ours.
So what I'm concerned with is we're being reimbursed now. So I'm concerned about where cost is after the reimbursement goes away. Looking at the new policy. Okay. So we're paying something now, but it's being reimbursed. So what is that going to cost us compared to the stipend?
Okay.
Okay. Any further discussion from the board? If not, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And opposed, unanimous. Okay, moving on. We have a couple MOUs that we're looking to enter into with this first one's with UEATC and the second one is with USU. So on that, Randy prepared those MOUs with in consultation with those two entities, correct?
Yeah, so if you read through those and the difference between them is one says USU and one says UEATC. We're just the same. They're asking for a 12-month window to reserve facilities. They already receive the buildings at no cost under our policies that are government entity, but they're requesting the cost of the supervisor being waived as part of that.
I have a motion from the board.
I move to approve the MOUs for UVATC and USU.
A motion, do I have a second? Motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So motion passes unanimously. Next item on our agenda is approval of out-of-state travel for recruiting trips to Allentown, Michigan, Akron, Ohio, and Millersville, Pennsylvania.
I'm up.
Okay.
I have to say, though, that I believe this trip should have been under the consent calendar. With that said, I'm going to give you my spill on the importance of what we're trying to do. Excuse me. In your memo, you see that there are 3 trips that are planned. There's actually a few other trips, but these are the out-of-state trips. All of the trips will be paid out of the federal, either Title I, Special Ed, or STEM. So none of the travel will be paid out of any regular ed funding. During the current year, we hired 20 ARL teachers, alternative routes to licensure, which we're grateful for, and some can come with tremendous skills. But we also, they come with a lot of support, well, needing a lot of support. We also know that there's 11 open positions in our district. And with our growth, it's been a challenge to keep up with the new teachers, the retiring teachers, and to really recruit the best. And so there's some reasons why we want to recruit our best. One is it's just the immediate impact on student learning right now. Bam. We know that even hiring a first-year teacher, there come challenges. They haven't taught, and it takes a lot of support from us. Even with that, we're here to support our teachers. 2 is just this lopsided amount of support. We have administrators and instructional coaches and other team leaders that they have to give extra time and support for these new teachers that they're leaving their own class behind. And I think you can talk to many of the educators in here, some of the impact on just the amount of support. The last is just an increased cost. When we hire an ARL or anybody without certification, our plan this year was to assist that new hire with a veteran teacher for 6 to 8 weeks, which is better than nothing. It really is. But it doesn't come close to the work of Utah State University or a University of Utah or just a Michigan You name it. It doesn't take the place of 4 years of schooling. The actual cost, well, it's going to cost about $3,000 extra for that veteran teacher. And then we're committed to $2,000 a year to help these teachers to get their license. So if they stay 3 years, $2,000, $2,000, $2,000 with $3,000, it's a $9,000 investment. We can do a simple math. At 20 ARLs, 3 years, $180,000 investment. Not to mention the impact on learning and the impact on actual support. We went through this process. Actually, I was talking with, where's Rick? Rick Johnson. He said, I was in Tooele and we were struggling to find teachers. We put a plan together, and we were talking with our Title I teachers, principals, because the Title I money is earmarked. How do you retain, well, first of all, how do you recruit, and how do you retain teachers? We're not even talking retention yet. We're just talking recruiting. So that kind of got the idea rolling, like, let's find a better way. But if we're going to recruit, let's be intentional. Let's use some data to recruit. Because I would rather go to Miami and to Phoenix to recruit, or LA. We don't have a single teacher from that area, from those areas right now. So why spend our time there? We did a survey. We wanted to find out where our teachers are from. Well, our teachers from the 5th year and onward, about 90% of our teachers were from the West. Mainly, most of those teachers were coming from USU, typically Logan. But in the last, our teachers in the first 3 years, they're coming more from the Midwest and the Northeast, about 20%. That number was 10, the number is now 20. Our district right now is the highest in the state. At 33% of our teachers are provisional. Highest. Not to mention, you know, when a first-year teacher comes in, and I think, you know, Risha can appreciate this, when you come in, the level of support that's needed, and we didn't even come close to supporting Risha when she was first here. It was by chance that there was a good teacher to help with. We're more intentional now. But they're not even coming with the basic skills of how to run a classroom. There are struggles. And we know the impact on teachers and students. So we met. We talked about this. Let's make this thing happen, is recruiting. We were intentional. We sent a survey out. We wanted to know the locations where we were going. So we were going to people are looking. I'm sorry?
That's the first 3 years.
Right.
But we have
33%.
But we do have provisional teachers that aren't in the first 3 years.
Okay. And that's how you fit
Okay. As we discussed and we brainstormed and we collaborated on how to make this work, I remember Lee last year, and there's only a few of us that know this because Lee has been the person in charge of recruiting. We're in this office over here, and we asked Lee how many teachers we have. Oh, he's telling me 20. And I was like Pontius Pilate. Cool. I mean, that's your deal, not mine. I sell textbooks, right? Not a big deal. It is a big deal. It should involve me because it involves our instructional coaches and it involves our teachers. And so when I finally looked in the mirror and said, I own some of this, gone to the chamber. This isn't just a school district issue. This is a community issue. So we asked the teachers, why do you stay? And why do you leave? What was the biggest deterrent? What do you think the biggest deterrent to coming here? Housing. We can't control some of those variables. And why do they stay? They stay because of people. They stay because they named principals. They love their team. They love their sense of community. They love the community. So instead of just recruiting and just sending flyers and using Monster.com and teacher to teacher, and just by chance they're coming our way, let's be strategic on who we want. Go to areas that the winter doesn't scare them. They love this winter. They love this community. Go to places that, in one of our symbol, our slogan, what we're going to brand is, go west, live fresh. And part of that freshness are the new buildings and new faces and students and the new growth, the rec center, the high school. Just walking around and seeing, go downtown on Main Street and seeing the beautiful flowers. That is fresh. People love that. We know there are people out there. The investment that we're asking, and it comes, and you can see in the memo, it comes out to $25,000 for the 3 trips. And with the people in this room, it costs about $1,700 a person. That will pay us back. It'll pay the students back. I mean, we talk about lots of things. We talk about the cell phone policy, right? We talk about a lot of things that really don't impact student learning. This impacts student learning right now. So, there you go.
I'd just like to say a few words. I'm just finishing my 9th year in this job, and so I believe I can speak to what has evolved in our district as far as staffing needs. When I first came into this job, the district was just moving away from offering an incentive for teachers to retire early because we were coming off of several years of declining student enrollment. And we kept teachers for years. You know, when many of us were hired into the district, there just weren't a lot of staffing changes. But what we have found is we have gone in the last 9 years from trying to incentivize people to leave to witnessing the baby boomers coming up to retirement age, along with accelerated growth in our community. We've had growth not just in our student enrollment numbers, but growth increases in housing costs. And so over the last years, we've just watched steadily the increase in our need to hire teachers. And I have been in this office over the last 9 summers, and we've tried different strategies for enticing people to come to our area, but it has ended up the last 3 years especially, we get into mid-August and we don't have all of our positions filled. And we've gotten to a point where we're willing to maybe reduce our standard a little bit, and we've hired ARLs, and when Jaime refers to ARLs, he means teachers who hold a bachelor's degree in some area. They've graduated from college, but it's not in education. And so USOE, the state office, will allow us to hire them so long as they enroll in a program called Alternate Routes to Licensure. So they have to take classes on their own time, and the state usually will give them 2 or 3 years to become qualified. So what we've seen is we put these folks into the classroom. Some of them do really well, but it's a very, very small percentage. Many of them struggle, especially with classroom management. So our instructional coaches have had to invest immense time and effort in helping those people just come up to the minimum standard as far as managing the classrooms. But what we're hoping to do is be early out of the chute, catch some of these folks who are recent graduates from college who are top of their class, not just settle mid-August to fill our vacancies with whomever we can get. And so we're hoping to be able to offer incentives for hard-to-fill positions. We're hoping we have the board support for that. I just wanted to say a few words to give my testimony that in this position, I have watched this over the years, we have got to be smart about how we're seeking to fill these positions that are going to teach our kids. It is absolutely directly related. I have a grandson in the district. I want him to have the best education. We've all heard about what research says about the negative impact on a student who has a poor or ineffective teacher for 1 year. That negative impact lasts for years, and so I just really plead with the board to consider where we're coming from. I appreciate the team I work with because this is too big for one person anymore. It's just, we need a really smart team approach to fill these positions this year, and I believe in the future in the district, so thank you.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So how many did we hire last year?
How many teachers? Oh, it was in the 50s.
What are we projecting for next year?
We're not sure right now. We're just crunching those numbers. Where we are right now is we've got 17 vacancies. Of that, we've got 16 vacancies in elementary. We've got 17 vacancies in secondary. And in special ed, we've got probably 5 that we're looking at. Of those vacancies in secondary, that doesn't include 2 positions we just offered, a math and a science. In addition to those 17 secondary, I believe it is 5 math and 1 or 2 science. Those are our toughest to fill, along with special ed.
So the year before was 50 something?
Yeah, it was mid-50s. The last 5 years, we've seen at least 50.
So if I summarize it right, we're under 40. Correct? So
for right now, we hope.
Hopefully improving?
Yeah, we're hoping that the number of baby boomers who are retiring has peaked. We're hoping it peaked last year because last year was year 5 of the 5-year longevity payout for people who had to have that in 5 one-year increments. We're not quite sure with the economy and the layoffs if that's going to impact us anymore. We've got a few teachers who are saying their spouses who work in the oil or gas industry may lose their jobs. Right now we're keeping our fingers crossed. That's what we're looking at. But I remember last August when I was preparing a report for Mark, we were looking at the previous 5 years, and we had hired well over 200 teachers. It was upwards like 250. Our retention rate over these 5 years has been about 50%. So we're working real heavily on retention, but we've got to keep in mind that a large number of those we've hired have been ARLs who haven't been successful. So we're hoping between the efforts with recruiting and retention with our instructional coaches and the professional development that we're providing, we're hoping we'll get the best and we'll hang on to them. So
your ARL retention, do you see significant different percentage of retention between elementary and secondary?
I don't really think so. I think you find it pretty much the same throughout the district. And again, my understanding is it falls back to that classroom management piece. Those folks who haven't had that student teaching experience, haven't worked with kids, haven't taught in any capacity, it's really tough for them to walk into, say, a secondary school and, be able to effectively engage students in a way that eliminates, any misbehaviors and allows for kids to really learn. So, thank you.
I'm one of these recruitments that came to Vernal 37 years ago, and I'm so happy that I stayed and was able to raise my children here. Last year I went to a Utah State career fair for special ed. For the whole department that year, they only had 19 graduates. I interviewed 6. All of them were saying, "Oh, your district sounds awesome. We can't move there." Therefore, I didn't get anyone. Last year I had 6 teachers I had to replace. I replaced 5, and of the 5, 3 are ARLs. This puts a big stress on my IEP specialist, my coach. They're trying to get these teachers up, not only to teach and do classroom management, but now they've got to know all the special ed laws, what is going to stay in compliance. It's a huge issue that we're worried about, and we want to make sure that these kids, and all kids in the district, are getting the services that they deserve and that they have a legal right to. This year, I'm looking at replacing 6 more teachers. Special ed is already hurting, and that's why the state has allowed us to use ARLs. I'm grateful to these people. They've worked their hearts out. However, they don't have that expertise about special ed law, classroom management. It's just real important that we get qualified people. We have recruited some special ed teachers out of state from Pennsylvania, from Michigan, and they've done a great job for us. And I'm just really asking for the support of the board for this to help these our special ed department, because the kids deserve it. They deserve the best.
I'm Kathy Hawkins, principal at the junior high, and I came to covered wagons. So I've watched a few things happen in the school district, but I don't think any of you really truly can imagine a worse nightmare than an administrator 5 days before school starts and knowing that you're missing 2 math teachers, science teacher, and a social studies teacher, and there's no prospects in sight. Right now at the junior high, 4 of our 6 math teachers are not math majors. They are our ARLs, and we have lucked out. I don't know where we found them, but Jeannie Cushing, who has been a long-term substitute in our school district, came in 3 days before school started, and she said, Kathy, I can't stand to see these kids go without a teacher. I don't know how good I'll be, but I'll walk into the classroom and I'll teach. And she has been in there the entire year because we cannot find a math teacher. We have math teachers to find for next year. They are not there. One of the things you want to be able to do to a parent when he comes into your building and says, tell me which math class I should put my kid in, I want to be able to say it doesn't matter in this school. There's equity. I can't guarantee parents that. We had an administrator, a retired administrator, drop in 2 days before school started and fill our science position. He's leaving at the end of this week. It's not ended the last 3 years, and I don't see that it's going to get any better unless we do something different to find teachers where there are plentiful, where they are graduating teachers, and it's not here. We go to the job fairs at Utah State, we go to those at BYU, but we recruit very few teachers from those places because they want to stay on the Wasatch Front. If we keep doing what we've been doing, we're going to keep getting what we've been getting. And it's not enough. And so, as I think Jaime said, there's about a $1,700 per person cost on sending these recruiters out of state. Just a quick question, and it may not be here nor there, but I think if you equate that to whatever the per person cost is to attend the board retreat, it's a pretty inexpensive venture that we're asking that these people go on to try to put qualified people in the classroom for our kids. So I would not ask, but I would beg of you, give our kids a chance. Let these people go find the best that we can find for our kids. They deserve it. Thank you.
I'd kind of like to look at it from a sport perspective. When universities recruit athletes, typically about 75% of the universities send out a letter, and another 25% usually go and visit the athletes which they really want. And those athletes typically go to those schools in which they have a one-on-one or a personal interview or at least personal communication with those athletes. I can see the value that, yes, we can send letters and we can send posts email-wise to people back in the Midwest where there are not as many jobs as there are people coming out of college with education majors. And I think it's an investment that we need to at least try for the first year and reassess it. We can assess it at the end and see what our money's worth is. But to go and have somebody at one of those fairs representing Uintah School District and discussing across the table of potential employees seems like a good investment, and that more likely to have a person commit and want to come here as opposed to the way that we've done it before. Sure, there's always a few that they have 20%, I heard, come from the Midwest and the Northeast, but if we're really looking for the cream of the crop, and looking from a different perspective, that $25,000 is worth the investment. And so I make a motion that we approve this particular out-of-state travel for recruiting trips from, I believe it's Allendale in Minnesota, Akron, Ohio, and Minersville, Pennsylvania, with the caveat that we just don't turn a blind eye to it, but determine what the success was in regards to those recruiting trips. And after it's all over, and see if it was worth our money. And if it isn't, then we don't do anything. That's my motion, is to approve these.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion from the board?
I have a few questions. Could you lay out the plan of the compensation package or whatever it was that you had for these new recruits that you're wanting to? Because I don't remember all the details.
Incentive plan.
The incentives.
As far as the incentives go, we established a base for all employees that we hire new, an incentive of $1,000 for a newly hired licensed educator. And this, as all of these incentives, will be paid following the clearance of the background check and the completion of the paperwork. So they're guaranteed to be here. They're going to teach for us. They'll get $1,000. We have mileage stipend. So 3 trips, if they live 50 or more miles away from Vernal, will cover the 56.5 cents per mile. We have a incidental travel expenses. So based
what do you estimate that cost to be?
Estimate which cost?
The one that just the 3 trips. Just switch slides on your
yeah. 3 trips. It depends on how many people are.
So if we're going back to Michigan, what's that going to cost us?
I don't. It depends on how many people we would hire. If we hired
about 1,500 miles per trip, so one way. So.
Okay.
Seeing I've driven up to 30 sometimes. No, 1,500 is one trip back.
That's one way. One way.
One way.
Yeah.
So 3,000 times 56. Okay. So that's about $5,000.
And if we have new hires living 50 more miles from Vernal, we have a break.
Sorry, go back. If we are able to hire there, it's one trip here. Not necessarily a trip here, back, so we can
up to 3.
We can up to 3. But we're hoping to do one trip.
So it may be one trip that it could go up to. Okay. 3.
And so this is based upon the length of distance, incidentals, whether they have to get a truck, travel costs for staying in hotels, things like that. Then we have one-time housing stipend. As we know in Vernal, there's some difficulty filling housing. We've had, when we looked at the breakdown, we had 9 people actually tell us that they were not staying because of the housing. We had a lot of others that did say that we don't know why, but these were people that backed out because of the housing. And then this is the big one for those tough to fill positions. We have special ed and science and math right now that we haven't been able to fill. I mean, we have 11 positions in the district. 4 of them are, these are 11 open positions this year that we didn't fill. 4 of them were these positions right here, math, science, and special ed. When we looked at the amount it costs to train a first-year teacher who has no endorsement and they're just coming with their bachelor's, their ARL, it's rivaling this amount of money. And so we were hoping to be able to incentivize these math teachers. And we have a math position at the junior high that's been open for 3 years that haven't been able to fill with these qualified individuals. So, now, I did talk with Greg Gilroy, who had said he's in favor of breaking this amount down to a smaller portion over 3 years to equal 10,000. That was one thing that he had mentioned to me when we met. But again, this is tied to a contract that they will sign that will be binding for those teachers to stay in our district for 3 years. If they leave, they will be responsible to pay us back.
So that contract is just for 3 years? So like after that 3 years they could?
They could. But we've found that almost 98% of the people, when they come here for 3 years, stay forever. So
we love it here.
That or we get our hooks in something. But one of the things that I just stress is that there's no point in us going to try to bring people from Michigan or Pennsylvania or Ohio or anywhere else outside of the state if we can't find a way to incentivize them to do that. Because Wyoming pays significantly higher, Colorado pays significantly higher, Nevada, there's no states that are at our level of the first 3 years of pay, and that's hard to overcome.
So my thought process, because I've struggled with this one. I've tried to look at it from all sides, and my main concern is that we're doing this for the new people that we don't know if they're going to turn out. And we're not doing anything for our teachers who are in the trenches and working so hard and have been for so many years. And I don't know, I feel like that might cause some contention. I don't know. This is just my hunch.
If I may, Risha, that was one of the thoughts that we rolled around because it's inevitable, I think, And the way I've looked at it is like this. There's no early retirement incentive now. It used to be people could, when they retired early, they could have 5 years of medical insurance paid and 20% of their yearly income over 5 years. And there was just a point, boom, where we quit doing that. And I think when we look at it like that, it helps, but also I think there are a number of teachers here who would say, like when we hire somebody for our team, our teaching team, who doesn't have the skills, it's a drain on all of us. Yeah. I can hear them. I think that's why we got some people here from the classroom who can speak to the fact that they support this for that reason. So I think, yeah, there will be some backlash, but I don't think it will be very significant. But you all, the teachers, can speak to that more than I.
Can I say something?
Yes.
You know me, I kept my mouth out shut too long, but I teach second grade at one point, and we have quite a few new teachers in our school, and I spend a lot of time on Friday afternoons trying to help them do their PLCs, trying to help them do things that they were not trained to do, and that takes time out of my prep time, and I'm usually there at the school on Saturday mornings or late Fridays. We need help. It's the bottom line. I'd be willing to I like that, but I'd also like to have my Friday afternoons back and my PLCs back.
I'll just add to it. Yeah. So my name's Don Heath. I'm one of the teachers at the high school. And just to kind of reiterate some of the points that Jaime made, why settle? Just like some of the teachers said, when it comes to having a teacher in your department at a certain level, brings that department down. When you have somebody at a higher level, it's going to be better. You can equate that to all kinds of different situations in your life. But if we can go and find the very best teachers, it'll make me, as a teacher, a better teacher. It'll make the other teachers in the school better teacher, because you want to have people who are professional, people who are able to already be at this level. When you have the ARL teachers who are at this level, it takes time to bring them up. They may not get to that level. But if you already have teachers that are higher, it's just going to bring up everyone all together. And so why should we continue to hire teachers that don't stay for a long time when we could go out, search for, and get the very best teachers that we can? And that's what we should do, and it'll bring everyone up.
Ultimately, really, this is an investment for the children, and so I think we need to give it a try and see how it works.
Hi, I'm Cynthia White. I'm actually a French teacher at the high school, but I'm actually want to speak as a parent. I have a son at the junior high, and I have a son at the high school. And they know who these ARL teachers are. And they will purposely try to switch out of their classes, or my husband and I can both help them. And I know that sounds rough, and I understand. And as a teacher, I explain to them, sometimes this is just what you got to do. You've got to either find a peer tutor, or you've got to come to your parents, or you could maybe even go to another teacher. But they know. And I'll tell you, I have one son that is frustrated and fed up. And I'm spending $2,000 of my money to send him to a program this summer to make up for what's happened. And I have not gone to the administrator. I'm not going to do that. This is between him and me, and this is something that we're gonna work out. But quite honestly, a lot of parents don't have those resources. They don't have the background. They don't have a doctorate like my husband. They don't have a master's like me. And I'm doing this for those kids who don't have that support system. And that's truly what I believe. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Christy Nurden. I'm an instructional coach. And I want you to know that I come from this slant of I love kids. I love them. Almost to a fault, I think sometimes. And when I have to sit in a classroom and observe a teacher who is ineffective, it is devastating to me. It is devastating. There's no way to recoup the learning that they've lost. And we know the single most important factor in a student's learning is the quality of instruction in a classroom. It's devastating. And we can put numbers up there and we can say, what is the cost of one student losing the opportunity to learn? I understand the numbers are important, but these are kids' lives. And we can't fix that once it's gone. So I would implore you, please, let's focus on quality instruction in these classrooms by getting teachers who are qualified. Thanks.
Steve Gordon here representing the Teachers Association, and they already stole most of my speech, so I'll just say that the Teachers Association supports this proposal. We've got to do something to hire people that are qualified, and the UEA is still very hopeful, despite the poor start to the state legislature cutting us 2%, that by the end of the session we are hoping for some decent raises for the first time in 5 years. And
that would help go a long ways to making those who are staying feel better too. Thank you.
Can I just say something from the corner? I just have a question. Because I just don't know, why are these particular points chosen? Michigan, Pennsylvania, what's the draw? I assume it's these fairs you're talking about. Why are you looking so hopeful to those three entities?
So do a little research. I'm trying to find areas where there are a lot of teachers without jobs.
Oh,
and we picked just the best we could areas where they had consortiums of colleges attending these fairs. So the first one in Grand Rapids, Michigan, or what's the name of it? Allendale. Okay. It's a recruiting fair for out-of-state recruits. Like, they want to go out of state. We want to be there. As a matter of fact, Tooele goes there. That's where we got the information. So we're kind of hopefully stealing some of their teachers. But we took the best guess on large fairs. But knowing that, with the team here, we have to separate ourselves from the other teams. So we're going to be strategic when we go to these fairs to make sure that we stand out. We get more face time, we remember names, and we make a connection with them right away. This is just part of the work. When we go with our teams, very, very strategic on what we say, what we dress, how we approach our people. So, Lance?
I just wanted to say that as we go out to this fair, we're going to be seeing a lot of people who are going to work somewhere. They're not going to work where they went to college. They're going to go somewhere. And, we're just saying, why not here? This is one of the best places in the world. Why not come here? And I think we can sell it. I think they'll come.
Can I add on that too? I'm from Michigan. I'm a Michigan teacher at Amber Severe. I teach first grade at Ashley. But when I graduated, there was 300 girls from Michigan State, and 2 got a job in Michigan. Everybody left. So I was so excited to hear that we're going to Michigan because it's a great place. I don't know if all states are like that, but Michigan, Ohio, those are the areas that are hurting, especially the auto industries. People want to get out of the state, so I'm on board.
And we're not bypassing USU or BYU. We know for the fact that they put out great teachers. We're still going to those job fairs that they have. We just we haven't been getting a lot of people wanting to come to Vernal programs. I know that Laura, USU, Uintah Basin, everyone that graduates from there is hired by us or Duchesne. I mean, but that's like 0.5% of what we need. Growing our own is the most valuable thing we can do, but we can't do it at the volume that we need to deal with the problems that we have right now.
So I just add that my son lives in Michigan still, and here the oil fields protected us during this last recession. We don't know what the real layoffs and stuff were that these states faced, and they're facing still today huge budget cuts every year. They're not laying off teachers because they want to. They're laying off teachers because they don't have the tax revenues to keep them. And these people are looking for jobs.
I'd just like to comment, a couple comments. I don't think anybody in this room doesn't want to do what's best for kids. I mean, we all love kids and we want to do what's best for them. Some of the concerns I have about this is the way it was presented to the board. And so that's giving me some angst, actually, to tell you the truth. It was laid out in concept, and in concept, there weren't enough details to know what it looked like. And so in my mind, when the concept was laid out, I pictured a couple people going to on a couple trips. So then when I got the details, and it's 15 people going to 2 places, it was a lot bigger than that. So that wasn't what I was expecting, so I had some concern with that. I also had some concern that funds were expended and we were committed to this before the board took action. I think that's backwards. I think that the board should take action before what's going to be committed. You know, here we are as a board. We have a tough decision to make because, you know, monies have been spent. And on this trip before us to make a decision. So that gives me a heartache. But I still go back, I want to do what's best for the kids. I don't want to, and I listen to you and I make a compelling case. But we can go get good teachers and we can solve the problem that we have here. The other thing that I think we need to agree on before I'm comfortable in sending anybody on this trip, we need to agree on the incentives that are going to be offered. Because as you said, Vice President Gilroy, he had some concerns that maybe the package is too big and that it should be paid out after they come instead of before they come. And I'm in agreement with that. I think that we do need to revisit that. And I'm not sure that 10,000 is the right number, and I don't think that paying it up front is the right approach. But I think the board needs to talk about that in terms of agreement before we go through this, so we know what we're getting into. And the details are important, because that way we can agree and make a decision.
But we did have this discussion in regards to the incentives. And as a board, we did agree.
No, we did agree on the incentives, but after the meeting.
But those numbers were available in that discussion. I don't mean to be a point of contention, but I do recall in our meeting that we did look at numbers, we looked at the incentives, and as a board, we gave the okay for the administration to move forward.
With the incentive package.
Correct.
But we didn't talk about the details of how many people were going in the recruiting.
That I will concur with you on, but I'm just saying with the incentive, the values were all there, and we all agreed on it at that time to move forward.
So my point was with the numbers that are going on the recruiting trip.
Understood.
Now, I come back to the incentive package because Superintendent Dawkins has mentioned that Vice President Gilroy has a concern about that. And I know he expressed that concern in the meeting. And since then, I also have the same concern. So I think before we send people on this trip, we should have those. Well, I don't know if we need board action, but we need to have agreement that that's what we want to do.
You know, when we talk about the incentives, this is next year's money. And so we build this into the budget for next year. When I met with the board and went over the incentives, the idea was, will you guys be okay with the direction that we're going with this? We're going to build this into the budget. This is the problem, is that if you say it's okay, and then I go out and I tell people we're going to do these incentives for you, and then when we get to the budget you say, no, we're not going to approve it, then I've just committed a whole bunch of folks $10,000 that the board isn't going to be okay with. That's why it was presented in closed session as part of a negotiated element for next year's money. And there's no point in us going to Michigan and Ohio and Pennsylvania if the board's not okay with the incentive package. And so, you know, you give me some direction right now so that we can get everything on board, because we're ready to go.
Well, I guess my question is, you brought up Greg's concern.
Greg said that.
I don't know where we're at with that.
Well, Greg had indicated he doesn't have a problem with $10,000 if it's paid out over 3 years. If that's what the rest of the board would like, we can do that. Or if you think it's best if we go with $10,000 up front, then we can go with that.
I think part of the concern, at least with me, is because we were presented this plan, and then in 5 minutes after we presented, well, not even 5 minutes after it was presented to us, we had to make a decision. And being the newbie, I just kind of went with the pack. And since then, I kind of thought about it, and I wish that I would have had time to kind of ponder on it and be able to talk to people about it, and like the committee that has planned it and done it, because I know that you've put together a committee for recruitment, and I agree, we need good teachers. I totally agree with that. But I'm just wondering if there's not another plan that might work too. You know what I mean? Like, I really feel strongly about if people can't afford to live here on a beginning teacher salary, then maybe our wages are too low. Maybe we need to increase our base. Maybe that would help, you know? And I just think, and I don't know how all the money works. I can tell you right now, I don't know. But I'm willing to dig in and I'm willing to find out. We need to take care of the people we already have, or they're going to be leaving too. And that's what I'm worried about. That's my concern, is that, so we pay these people a $10,000 bonus for being here, and I know that's just the three areas. We pay them a $10,000 bonus, then after that 3 years, their contract is over. They've got all the experience they need to go move to a district that pays more. So I see the recruiting might be really awesome, what you're doing, but I don't think the retention part is solid.
And that's our next step. That is, and I would love for you to be part of that committee as we talk about retention. But that is our next step, that we're involved with that part of it as well. We're not leaving that. That's going to be more important than the recruiting part. And I would encourage somebody on the board, you, be part of that. Help us.
Also, time is a factor, because right now I am in the process of interviewing a couple of people right now. And I can't give them the specifics of the incentives. And I'm afraid I'm going to lose them to another district. So time is critical right now. We don't have time to ponder right now. We have to take action. And believe me, I hate starting off with the school year and I'm going, gee, I'm down 5 teachers, 5 special ed teachers, but I still have to provide those services somehow, somewhere. And I don't know how. So time is really critical. And I have to applaud Jaime and Lee and the recruiting team. They've done a lot of thought into this. They thought about it. I can also tell you that when I go to the different fairs and I talk about the things that the district is doing as far as the program to keep them there with training, to give them support in the classroom, the coaches, they are amazed. They want to come. But I need a bigger hook right now to get them. And I think this is just the hook. And so we don't have a lot of time to wait, because people are now interviewing and we're losing people. And so we've got to act. You have got to act.
March and April is when Michigan colleges start doing their interviews for new teachers.
Yeah, I've got a concern how we expend money as part of next year's budget when this board's never passed that budget yet. This money, the incentive is part of next year's budget.
We're not spending next year's budget. We're telling them, you come, and this will be the money that you will get when you come in August to be in the district.
And the travel's from this year's budget, not...
Right, I'm talking incentive.
Okay.
I guess I would equate that to medical insurance. We bill the teachers this year, we don't know if we're giving medical insurance next year. What's the difference between that and the
Yeah, well, there are
commitments we make now for next year's budget.
But we're not spending it until next year. Is that right?
Right, because they've got to come and pass a background check and those. But we, as far as the budget process is concerned, we make all kinds of commitments early in the year, you know, and then when we get into the numbers and we go, you know, we're short an amount, then we make concessions and make adjustments. Sure.
Any other comments? Questions? Board ready? You know, I was pretty hesitant, concerned about this and concerned about how it would affect our teachers. So I really appreciate the input from our teachers union representatives. That was a big concern to me. I want to do what's best for kids, and I want to have good teachers in the class. I think that's best for teachers also. We've got good teachers in the classroom. Anybody need more information?
The motion on the floor.
Really, I wish that, I don't know, I feel like we need to have our whole board here to really know. Can we table it and make it special meetings?
This trip is scheduled for March 4th.
can do, you can make any motion. Well, there's a motion on the floor right now, and a second. So, let's go ahead and vote. All in favor of approving the travel, vote aye.
Aye.
No.
I didn't hear you vote.
I haven't heard of that. I'm going to Cancun.
And Nashville. So they don't go, you don't go?
I'll be more than happy to step back from going to Nashville or whatever savings there is and go towards it. And I didn't really expect a response, but I'm serious about that. I have no problem staying from going to Nashville to save that money if it means to go towards this to see if this works.
Thank you.
And I'll pay back, like I said, I'll pay back the $230 that we will lose on this. Just so the district doesn't lose a dime on this.
I guess the piece of this just like the angst that you had, President Caldwell, that money's been spent for these trips already. Well, registration fees have been paid for Nashville already before it came digital. So it's no different situation.
But there's a cancel. You can still cancel.
There's still a cost.
Can I ask a question here? Why was it paid for before the board voted on it?
Because board members called and said they're listening to this conference.
No, the recruiting trip. That's $25,000 that was expended before the board even had a chance to vote on it.
Entire 25. Well, first of all, instead of purchasing limits of $50,000 loan, anything under $50,000, if it's within an approved budget or grants that we have, the administration can make those decisions. It doesn't have to.
What's the total? Sorry, I missed the total.
50,000.
Oh. Well, that answers the question then. So you can spend up to $50,000 without the board's approval.
As long as we have budget to do that, correct?
Oh, well. Go team.
I don't feel good about it until we can talk to Greg about it. I'm not opposed to the recruiting trips. I'm not sure where we stand on the information you're going to be giving these people on the recruiting trips. And maybe the number of people going on the recruiting trips. Those are my thoughts.
So you would vote in favor of the recruiting trip?
That was the motion.
Yeah, that's what's on the
That was the motion to accept.
Can I just talk why we have five, why there's five going?
Yes.
Just really quick, the plan is to have one as the lead on the trip. I'll serve as the lead on 2 trips. Julie Wild will serve as lead on another trip. And the lead is the contact between the school, between Lee and her department, because we have to do background checks. We have to know now whether we want to hire them. We have the other 4, they're recruiting and they're having conversations and they're actually doing the interviews. But while they're doing, the 4 people are doing the interviews, you need somebody to be at the table and still answer questions and be able to, kind of like the head coach, to orchestrate this game. And that's why we're going 5. It wasn't just a number we threw out. We were strategic when we decided to go with 5.
So you have 2 people interviewing.
4 people. 2 and 2.
So there'll be teams of 2 interviewing.
Teams of 2 interviewing with one person, because if they're both interviewing and somebody comes to the table, nobody's there to talk to them. I have to be in contact with Lee and her people and say, we have this person, we need to do a background check right now, because we might want to offer them now. So.
Does that address your concern?
Not a full background. They might be able to do some reference checks.
Oh, you're okay with this?
Tell them about it. I just wish we could just call Greg and say, sorry. Because you have to know what you're going to be telling people when you go to this recruiting trip. And if we look at I don't know, I just keep coming back to the base thing, and if you raise the base, are you gonna have money to do all these other incentives? That's what I'm worried about, that's my disconnect in my head right now. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like the base.
We're not raising the base salary.
Raise the base salary, well, if we could.
Well, then do the math on that. Let's raise the base salary by whatever percentage and see what that costs. Right?
Well, if we did, I mean, we're expecting 250,000 is the total, and that's what we talked about in the meeting. That is less than 1% on the base.
Yeah, benefits are probably 375 last year.
Legislature comes in the last measure put on there.
That's why I was trying to remember the figures we had from negotiations, if it was 0.5% or 2/3, I can't remember. I know it was less than 1%.
I mean, $250,000 is less than 1%. And of the $250,000, the entire amount's not going to come from regular ed. And part of that's going to be special ed. They've got to recruit 5 or 8 teachers. And those pieces will become special ed.
One-time money, so you're going to be a recruiting expense.
Depends on how many you get this year.
We hope it's not a recruiting expense.
Get more this year.
I mean, it's a huge important decision, and that's why I'm hesitating, because I'd really like to have unanimity between the board of this. And I won't be the one that has to decide.
Yeah. That's I really have tried really hard to look at this and really try to make the best decision for kids, because I totally agree with you that you need good teachers in the classroom. There's no doubt in my mind that you need good teachers and you need classroom management skills. I understand where you're coming from, wanting to go to these places that have colleges that have extra teachers that they don't have enough jobs for. I understand that makes sense to me. But I'm also worried that we're going to spend this money bringing people in, and then they're going to get a pay cut because their bonus is gone, and then they're going to leave, and then we're going to be right back in the same boat. And I'm afraid.
But student loan is
but these, I don't know.
I guess if I may, that's where step 2 is going to be.
I'm just trying to help you see why I'm struggling with this. Okay.
That's why step 2 of this process is going to be so important, as they were talking over here. Step 2 is going to be the retention process.
Seriously, you want to try to go and make the teacher salaries, and the teacher association is really behind this, that we want to get it so that this is a great idea. This will get them here. But like Jaime's talking about, the next step then will be keeping us here, which is, you guys got a lot of work, because we can't just be competitive around the state. We have to set the standard in the state in order to afford the cost of living.
That'll make recruiting a lot easier.
Now, yeah. If we're the best, if we're the best paid teachers, yeah. But that might be a tax that you guys might want to start.
Might be able to do it.
Yeah.
The one thing I'm looking at here is I see where the administration and the teachers are concurring on this, which is an evidence to me that we need, as a board, to hear them, to listen to them, to give this a try. I recognize it's a small sample size for all of our educators, but those who are here, I don't know if you came here independently, if you were asked or whatever, but I see as a sample size that they are in agreement with our administrators in this particular recruiting trip and the incentive program. And so I think as a board, it's just my input, that we need to listen to them. We need to listen to them.
Yeah.
Risha, I appreciate as an educator what you're saying for us, because I do, I'd like to see my base pay. But on the other hand, I'm getting burned out. And if you don't do something, I mean, there's been some times I'm thinking I can't do this anymore. And I come back for the kids. But if something doesn't give a little bit, and if we had good teachers, that would be the give.
Right. Well, I understand the importance of a good team, because my year of teaching, my team saved my life. So I know where you're coming from with that. And I can see that. And if we need 40 teachers or 50 teachers for next year, I think it's probably a good idea to go on a recruiting trip. But I don't want you to go and say all this stuff if our whole board is not okay with, if we've decided after we said, yeah, go ahead, sometimes you change your mind, right? That it's not good to do all this incentive stuff. I don't know, that's where my disconnect is, and that's why I'm having a hard time.
My concern with the incentive was how it would affect our teachers.
Right, that's what I was worried about.
I was afraid, but now that our teachers are in support of it, yeah, I'm not so concerned about that.
May I say something? I'm a little confused. About a half hour ago, a motion was made and seconded to have a vote on this, and it's now in debate. I'm just confused as to what part of this process we're in.
Well, you have to have the motion on the floor.
Join the confusion. Well, the motion was moved to vote on this motion about a half hour ago, and we are still debating after a couple members have voted. It seems like there's a little bit of out of orderedness. I would really like a vote if that's actually what is on the floor right now.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm slow, and it takes me a long time.
Unless he changes her.
I explained to you why I'm hesitating.
Can I remove my vote and change it?
I'll get on my minions.